Hey, Tolerators, it's Natalie here with some pre-episode announcements and reminders. The first announcement is that we will be celebrating the first ever Misogynist of the Year award with our Misogynist of the Year ceremony, where I will be naming our top misogynist voted by you, our listeners, and Patreon members. If you would like an invite to that ceremony or watch the video replay, please consider joining any one of our Patreon tiers. They all currently have a free trial, and we also have a free tier where there will be more Men I've Tolerated Before content readily available for you. The Misogynist of the Year ceremony is the first of our Misogyny Meltdown series that is a Patreon exclusive series of content about my inner feminine rage about misogyny. We'll see you soon. Follow us on all of our socials at Men I've Tolerated Pod or Natalie K124. Enjoy the episode. Hey Tolerators, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie Katona, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. Today is yet another great and fantastic day because one of my friends who is a sugar cookie, and I keep trying to convince you to join the book club, is here. Chris DeRosa is one of the hosts of the hysterical podcast, Fixing Famous People. You can catch my episode where I believe the words we used were oh no, I had these words scripted out. I was very reasonable and rational about why Chris Pratt is the face of white male misogyny and should be canceled. I was reasonable and rational.
Yes.
Yes.
You are.
And so make sure to go listen to that episode and all of the episodes. It's hysterical. Dominic is hysterical. It's my favorite part of my week. He is also a producer for Bravo and has worked with some of my favorite housewives. He is here to talk about how reality TV reflects our internalized need to keep up with the Joneses and having older women on TV, which I think is so exciting about the housewives.
I also have a third prong to this that I haven't even prepped you with that I was going to make a surprise. So once we get there, I'll tell you.
Okay, awesome. I think I also have a curveball too that I was thinking about in the shower when it comes to the housewives. But before we get ahead of ourselves, why don't you introduce yourself to the Tolerators by telling a little bit about your actual background with television and your career?
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Chris. Am I like at an AA meeting? I don't know why I just did that. I started in TV in 2013. It's now going to be 10 years. It's 10 years now, basically. Wow, I didn't even think about that. I moved here before. It's been 10 years. I moved to New York after college. My first job ever was Iron Chef America's final season on Food Network. I mean, to make things very short, I basically went from there to doing a few other Food Network shows. I started as a PA on season 7 of Real Housewives of New York City. I've worked on shows like Beat Bobby Flay, a show on Netflix called Snack vs. Chef. I've worked on, obviously, The Real Housewives of New York City. I've worked on The Real Housewives of New Jersey. I've worked on Summer House. The Big Shot with Bethany on what was then HBO Max. I'm the producer of Bethany's YouTube show. And I've also done, what other shows have I done? Oh, My Unorthodox Life on Netflix. I mean, I've done a lot, but.
Ultimate Girls Trip.
Seasons 4 and 5.
I don't know if everyone caught how many times he said Bethany, but that is my favorite housewife.
Is it
Bethany.
Really?
Yes, Bethany has always been my favorite housewife. I think never tell her this. I was really impressionable to strong women when New York housewives were a thing and like in their heyday. And Bethany, you know, she's like that aunt that you go to Christmas every year and you're really like, I want to be on board with everything Aunt Bethany says this year, but I know that there will be at least 2 things that I'm going to have to be like, oh, I tell people you're my favorite aunt.
Yeah. That's That's really funny.
That is really funny, but I've always loved her. I love her attitude. One of the things that I have on our outline is what fascinates me about the Real Housewives, and it fascinates me every time we talk about reality TV or anything women are doing in the public eye, is there's a following, there's an audience, there's a fascination, but when you talk to other people about housewives, there's not always a level of just like respecting what these women are allowing you to view in their lives. And I was like, we've seen divorces, job changes, companies being built, the amount of content
companies caving in,
death, death, jail time sometimes, and we've seen it all on Housewives. And I would hope that this far into the housewives being a thing, we would stop just talking about them like they are, in fact, just housewives mooching off of some old guy sitting on a yacht. Because I feel like that's been their reputation when they started out. Like, who are these ladies?
Well, that was what's funny is, like, in New York, I started in season 7, and for the most part, like, none of them were in relationships.
Right.
Like, when I was a PA on season 7, like, Bethany was separated from Jason. Ramona and Mario had split up. Luann and the Count were not together, and Luann had broke up with Jacques. Sonia was single. Dorinda had just come on, and she was single. Heather was married. Kristen Takeman was married, and Carol was single.
Yeah.
So it's like, other than 2 of them, like, all of them were single, whereas now when I work on Real Housewives of New Jersey, like, the men are such a huge part of the show, and that took a lot of adjusting, where I was like, I don't care about what your husband's schedule is. Like, you know what I mean? And then it was like, oh, I need to actually care about what your husband's schedule is, because he's like a huge part of all of your scenes.
Yeah, because they're a very family-oriented group of housewives.
Yes. But that being said, like, a lot of what I started working on Housewives and a lot of reality shows was women that were single, that weren't with a man, that were like trying to figure it all out.
I think Andy recently posted on social media the current definition of a housewife, since it technically doesn't have to be a wife anymore and hasn't had to be a wife in a while.
No.
I think after some just like word jargon where he mumbled on about what a definition could be, he was like, have you looked at a husband before? You're a housewife. Have you met someone's husband? Housewife.
Yeah. Wait, that's actually really funny. I did not see that. Have you looked at a husband before?
Right. Because I, like you, I remember those very early days of Orange County and New York and all of them, and how, I mean, when we go back to rewatch them and you're like, oh, this is really the direction they thought that this show was going to go in. And now it's completely like sideswiped and turned when it comes to, I think, at least Orange County.
It also was something like they were so young back then. And like, I mean, this is kind of what we like originally were talking about, is like a lot of these women are like 60 plus now. Like Ramona's like 66 years old or 67, I believe. And her birthday is by the time this comes out, she might be 68 years old. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's another, like, Vicky Gunvalson is like in her late 60s.
And she's never going to stop working.
And no, never ever. But I mean, it's to like broaden it just to like be making fun of them, but like to make it into kind of like what your podcast is about. Like, where on scripted TV, where is there a woman that's 60 something years old other than Grace and Frankie, the best television show to ever exist? Like, where are there women in their 60s and 70s like having real like agency over their storylines?
Agency over their storylines. Also, just like getting down and dirty in the dating world. I think that's, as you know, that's my favorite part of the New York Housewives, is that they're always down to party and they're always down to get like some strange, if that's what their mood is that day. And even when Grace and Frankie would have romantic subplots, and I agree, Grace and Frankie is brilliant television, and I have recently told people that the reason I need the writer's strike to end is because I don't like the idea of Jane Fonda in the heat for that long. I'm like, someone get Jane Fonda.
Correct. And you know she's going to be out there. Like, she's not going to go inside. Yeah.
I was like, get her a bottle of water and an umbrella. She can't just be out there in the oppressive heat. But even when they were very tame storylines, even when they were making vibrators for older women, which was also revolutionary. And they should have done it for that and Just Like That episode where they had vibrators. I was like, where's the Grace and Frankie one?
I can't even, like, do not allow us to go into an Just Like That tangent because it'll never stop. I know. I can't. But yes, correct. Like, Grace and Frankie did it already. Like, the Widow Summit. Sorry, I'm going into it. I can't.
Yeah,
I have to back away. I will never stop. But, like, the reason I'm saying this is because, like, where on scripted TV are these women represented? Within in an A story.
Yeah.
Capacity. Nowhere. Like, name one role.
I mean,
outside of, again, Grace and Frankie separated from this.
I mean, I think Golden Girls is still syndicated and you can stream it, but even then.
But they were like 50.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't even, like, they're way older than them now.
Yeah. That meme that gets passed around where it's like, this is the cast of New York Housewives and this is what the Golden Girls look like.
At that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about it for me is, in my world and in my life, the older women in my family are my favorite people to hang out with because, and it happened to me as soon as I turned 30, I was like, I no longer have one fuck to give about anything that I could be doing or my reputation or what anyone might decide for me. And that was a big lead from my aunts, my mother, my great aunts, my grandmother, just that, like, I'm going to do it my way attitude. And we don't also see a lot of that on television anymore. I just finished like a whole season of Sweet Magnolias. Those women never take charge of their own destiny.
I mean, I wish I could comment, but I have not seen it. But, like, no, it really is that thing. It's like, think of how many podcasts you listen to that are like female actors that are like, every role I always get is like me being someone's wife. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm the main character's wife that, like, rubs lotion on their elbows and, like, talks to them in the bedroom before they go to bed. And, like, that's what the role is.
Yeah.
And even these women, and that's the thing is, like, a lot of these women back in the day, like, think about it, like, Vicky was married to Dawn, like, Ramona was married to Mario, like, who else? Not Gretchen. Tamara was married to Simon. Like, they all had these people that were, like, the men in their lives, and they were like, I need to get out from under you. I need to, like, go be my own person, and, like, I'm actually the one that's, like, running the whole ship. Why are you the person that looks like they're the head of the household?
And the thing about that point is, I think that's what housewives get the most made fun of about, when it's like, oh, I can't believe she's starting a skin line. I'm like, well, she wants to start a skin line because...
To leave her husband.
To leave her husband.
Yes.
And it might not even be that she's actively leaving her husband, but in the back of her mind, she probably thinks, oh, I need my own money. I will one day have to leave him, probably.
Yeah. Well, and how many, think about it. If you're 50 something now, when you got married at like 21, that was 30 years ago, you weren't thinking that, like, no one was telling you to have your own money.
Mm-mm.
They were saying, like, make sure that your relationship is good so that you can, like, continue to have money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so it's like a lot of it's things that, like, 30-year-old women are doing now that, like, these women at 60 are, like, finally realizing they need to do, which I think is compelling.
It is compelling. And because you've entered my life as a very good friend, I have and Scandival. I have re-immersed myself in Bravo. A lot of my day is spent listening to Bravo just as I walk around my house. And to look at it as a 35-year-old woman who has a podcast about misogyny, who desperately wants women to be able to stick up for themselves and for the Barbie movie to be made real, I'm like, oh, they were doing it the entire time, and we all laughed at them and called them shrewd.
Well, and, like, now the person that will be the critic of this will say, well, all they do is fight, and that's what the show is, and that, like, brings, you know, feminism back 900 million years. And to them, I say, this is my third prong / curveball, as you put it. The Real Housewives and many other reality television shows is conflict resolution porn. We make people confront their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Ones that people walking around every day wish that they could do. They wish they could say, my sister-in-law is a fucking cunt. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yes, always.
My sister-in-law is a fucking cunt, and I wish that I could tell her to her face.
Yeah.
And tell her why.
My sister just sent me a TikTok, and it was a woman. It was just one of those women staring into the abyss with text over their face, and it was I'm so tired of arguing with women who did not grow up with a sister. Yes, I called you a dirty bitch and that you would die a slut, but I was hangry, and what do you mean you don't want to go get ice cream?
I want to hit you with my car, but like that wasn't, I didn't mean that. Yeah.
Right, I didn't mean that. I may have thrown a DVD case at your head, but that was 45 minutes ago. I thought we had moved past it.
No, but I say this to mean like, you wanted to say, oh, my friend who's insufferable that won't stop being annoying and is like being really annoying to me, instead of me like not talking to her anymore and her never understanding why, I'm going to actually sit down with her and tell her why she's being the way why this is affecting me in the following ways. And like, she's then going to have to respond to that, and we're going to have to work through it. And we're going to see each other again because we are on the same television show. So we have to rectify this for the greater good.
Well, and I think the opposite end of that conversation is important too, because we need models of people to be like, I feel like you're being insufferable, or not taking my allergies into consideration when you make the cheese plate or any of it.
Yes.
And then we also get to watch the other person on the other side of that struggle with it, and then eventually
receive feedback.
Yeah. And I don't know how many friends you've given feedback to, but I can tell you that ghosting is usually less emotional labor for me, because people aren't, myself included, people aren't good at receiving feedback.
Oh, correct. And it's because they don't get it often.
Mm-hmm. And it's because we've been told it's just nicer to make nice. Like, if you're going to spend this time with your friend, why ruin it by being like, oh, this happened to me when I was in high school, of all places. We used to go to the Six Flags a lot, because what else are you going to do? And yeah. I get dehydrated, and I get dehydration migraines really easily. So whenever I'm at an amusement park, I know that there's going to be about an hour that I have to take a break. Well, have you ever been on vacation with people who need the entire group to do the exact same thing every moment of the vacation?
My least favorite thing in the entire world.
Because I'm 17 years old, I can sit on a park bench while you ride the monster 15 times. Like, I'll be chill.
I'll be right here when you get back.
There's probably a book in my purse. Like, I'll probably make a friend. It'll be okay.
Yeah. And like, I need to sit down. So like, I medically need to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm like common safety. I need to do that.
So I'm 17. I still have all of the internalized misogyny and people pleasing in me. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to ride 4 more roller coasters and then we'll go home. And I eventually get nauseous, and my friend's boyfriend is like, Natalie has to sit in the front seat. And my friend is like, why does she have to sit in the front seat? I'm your girlfriend. I should be in the front seat with you. And he's like, because she's dying. She's going to die. Like, I just need to get her where the air is on her and things can blow on her. And you've literally tried to murder your friend today. She did not receive that well. He's like, she told you 15 times, like, I'm going to get nauseous. I am going to pass out. I am going to get dehydrated. And my friend at the time, in her head, it was all about, well, I plan, and this happens on the Housewives too, I planned something so nice for us.
Yeah,
and
love it.
You want to be nauseous.
Easiest scene you could ever do is like just be mad that no one is like being respectful of you. Yeah. But anyway, continue.
I made the best I believe it's Dorinda who's always like, I cleaned my house. Yes. I invited you to my house. I had really expensive wine, and you want to go home early.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to watch women do that. The Queer Ultimatum, those first few episodes before everyone got really toxic and angry at one another, when they would just have disagreements in their own partnership, and they'd be like, well, you know, I just remember a couple of weeks ago you were feeling like this, and everything was really even keeled and okay. I was like, is this what communication could be like?
And like, it's also a thing where it's like, you can just like never say anything and then just like secretly hate that person forever. And that's like not the point of this. Like the point, a lot of people that go as many times as people are like reality TV ruined my life. There's so many people that are like reality TV saved my life because you forced me to confront all of my problems.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? They're like, my marriage was crumbling and I wasn't dealing with it. And so I just like let it do that. I was just like adrift.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like my kid needed blank, blank, and blank. And I wasn't seeing that. And so because we were doing like, you know, scenes with my child, I was like, they were pushed to tell me that they needed blank, blank, and blank. Like there's many, and not to say that I'm like the fucking savior of the world, because I'm not. But like it is a thing where you are pushed to confront the problems that you have in your life.
Well, because you also, and I think this is where every bachelor relationship falls apart, you also at some point sit down with your family and loved ones and watch the season that you took part of.
And then talk about it afterwards. Like you basically have therapy.
Right. And so many people have sat on a final rose and said, so I thought that the edit would just be me and Ken and our love story, and the world would get to watch him fall in love with me every week. And yet I had to watch that bastard make out with 4 women at once in a hot tub. And then
but here's the thing with that. It drives me. Oh, sorry, you were saying something and I completely.
But then also have to explain that to grandma, like to be like, there's Ken.
It's The Bachelor drives me up a wall because it's like every person that goes on it acts like they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And there's been 30 some seasons of the show. So like you have zero excuse to think why. Like you have no reason to believe like, oh, I didn't think they were going to edit me this way. Or what? Like I don't understand. And not that like there isn't like stuff happening. Let's never forget like all the like weird lawsuits that happened a couple years ago, but like let me not, you know what I mean? Like Unreal was based on something.
Oh yeah, and we know that I could have watched Unreal until the day I died.
17 seasons of it. I'm furious that that's why, because it's like we were the 2 viewers of the show.
We were
like,
the 2 viewers.
There was no one else watched it other than us, but like would watch it would still be watching it right now. But like that being said, it's like yes, but like do your research. Come correct. And that's what happens when you have 22-year-olds or 19-year-olds on a reality show, is that you have deer in headlights. Guess what you don't have whenever you have a 57-year-old woman coming on TV for the first time? Not someone that's a deer in headlights.
Well, didn't a housewife just come out and say, because she got deemed for something or saying something but acting another way towards a lady during the season or whatever, and she goes, I hope you all... Well, and Sheena's currently going through this with the new season of Vanderpump Rules being filmed because she's been photographed with Sandoval a couple of times. And she's like, I hope you know that this is my job. They pay me to show up where he is.
Well, that's where that's the thing that's so funny. And I've told you this so many times. I'm like, I don't know where the show goes from here, because if Tom Sandoval isn't a part of the show, like there's no story.
Right. Unless,
like, as much as I know he's like the reviled like villain of the world, but like he is the only reason the show has another season. Do you know what I mean? Like if not for that, what are they talking about? Nothing.
And reality TV superfan Annie Seek, who has been on the show numerous times to talk about whatever we want to talk about, reality TV, Scandival being one, we mapped out the whole next season. I was like, they will make Schwartz and probably try to bully Sheena into being friends with Sandoval again, because someone will have to speak to him. It's not like that one weird season where no one spoke to Brock, but no one really had their heart set on seeing Brock on TV, so they could kind of just have him in the background of a scene and be like, oh yeah, Sheena's still married to him. Good for her.
Yeah. It's sorry, we're getting off course now though, but I don't know. And like, yes, are there moments that are bad? Yes. Yes, are there moments where it's cringeworthy? Yes. Yes, are there things where it's like, oh, that's very like low blow, or like that's, you know what I mean? Does it get dirty? Yes. However, they at least have a platform to exist on. Mm-hmm. Guess what? You know, and up until this Golden Bachelor, like, why do you think they're having the Golden Bachelor? Because housewives are 60 years old.
Yeah. And they all should have been a contestant. And I'm mad that not one of them is.
I know. I don't think, I know. It's like, that's upsetting. But again, what other role do you have that is like a three-dimensional character other than Grace and Frankie that are like women of a certain age? And the reason that the whole thing is called Housewives is because of Desperate Housewives, which remember we like fucking ate up like it was a Sunday dinner. You know what I mean? But like that was one show.
Uh-huh.
That was one show that happened like that. And then it to never, which became the biggest show on television, by the way. So you'd think that they would try to make more like it, but instead it was like that was the one fluke show that they had, and then never to be heard from ever again.
And I think when it comes to, well, that was cringe, or that was a misstep, or she was rude, I was like, yeah, it's reality TV. There are days I say something and I'm like, ooh, that was cringy. Yeah. Ooh, that wasn't great on my part. But that's what we're watching. And then you get mad if it's too scripted, because some of them have really like come up with their own scripts in their head before they're filming. And you see that happen and you're like, well, why is she on the show? Everything she says sounds planned out. And it's like, well, because every time one of these women has a real moment and is like, you know what? I just really wanted to tell Sally Sue to fuck off. And I did because I was so sick of hearing her mouth. Then you're also mad at her because she's a bully.
Yeah. And I think it's very, this is so like cliche to say, but it's like women living out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a woman like it really is a thing of like, it's not a woman that's like in polite society that's like, you know, like just not going to say anything and not going to do this and not going to do that. No, they're women that are like letting their emotions be known and making sure that they're not just like letting everyone, you know what I mean, being like the gatekeeper of everyone's like pain and like being like, I'm going to keep everything together so that everyone else can be. No, they want to like be able to say like, no, what you did was really wrong and it really hurt me and I can't believe you did that.
Yeah. And
not just like rolling over because they're a woman of a certain age in America.
And because I am from such a big family on my mom's side of the family, we also had to go through episodes like that where at a wedding, someone told you that you looked like a motherfucking pimp at the wedding. And then that guy told you that it's a good thing he wasn't pimping your wife because then he'd fucking starve because she's so ugly. And then
oh my God. Wait, is that real?
True story.
So I'm dead.
True.
That's
also,
Housewives. That's ready for Housewives.
I know. Make my family a TV show. But then also just like hug one another at the end of the night and be like, hey, I'll see you at the kiddo's baptism next week. Because you're going to have to see one another at the next family event.
Well, and that's the thing. And like that's the other part of it is that it's like, then you see eventually there's times when there's not resolution. When it's like, no, this has now gone too far and I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it's again, I think it's conflict resolution porn because we don't know how to resolve conflicts or do them. I don't think we do. I really, as a society, as a society, we don't do anything until it's time for us to then like jump on the hood of someone's car and go crazy because we've like lost our minds.
Right. It has to be a snapped episode or a future Netflix documentary or nothing.
Yes.
Part of the reason why the Housewives, because when I text you about them, I call them my aunties. I'm like, well, tell my auntie Dorinda that I really loved this because they feel so much like home. Because when you are a part of a huge Croatian family, you are always screaming at one another and you're always screaming for the spotlight or the attention, or you're all telling stories in the round like a Greek chorus. Yeah. So to me, I was like, oh yeah, I may not have the best skills in conflict resolution because sarcasm can get a little toxic or people aren't used to screaming or loud people or loud women. But I did grow up with a lot of female role models who would tell dudes, you better fucking step off of me right now because it's about to get ugly and it'll get ugly in front of all of your friends. And I've been that woman to be like, think about what you said before I embarrass you in front of all of your bros. And to be a person with that kind of attitude walking in not Bravo land, you get a lot of like deer in the headlights.
Or like, whoa, like calm down. Like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, right. I'm sure. Right.
You're so irrational. And I'm like, well, this is why they won't put me on The Bachelor. Because could you imagine? I'd be that lady being like, you guys don't see the aliens in the sky?
Yeah.
And the Housewives do give us, I love what you said about they're women living out loud because so much we get the messaging of, well, just conceal, don't feel.
Yeah.
Write it in your diary when you get home and scream into a pillow.
Well, and also, I mean, there's a whole other factor too of like, once you hit a certain age and you have like men with wrinkles are hot. Like even most of our society would agree on that. Whereas women with wrinkles in America still are seen as old and unattractive.
And I'll tell you, and I've told you that this is the most iconic thing about the New York Housewives, is they would film into 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, clean-faced, in some sort of nighty mismatched pajama situation.
Yeah.
Falling down because maybe they're drunk. Luann has fallen into countless shrubbery. And when's the last time you saw a woman on television who was of a certain age without makeup?
Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's the other part too, is like there were times when I'd be on other shows and I'd be like, all right, so like just be like whatever. Like, you know, we're just coming over for casual. And then they would be like completely made up. And I was like, no. Like you have like 3 pounds of like lip gloss on. Like I need you to look, you need to look like you just woke, like you're like waking up. Do you know what I mean? It's like 9 a.m. in the morning and it should look like it's not like, I don't know why you woke up at 5 a.m. to get 4 hours of hair and makeup. Like I wanted you to just be rolling out of your bed. Like I want it to be real. You know what I mean? That's the thing that everyone thinks, that we want to like script everything and make everything be fake. And it's like, no, I actually like am fighting with people all the time to make it not scripted and to make it be real and raw. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's what we strive for. And so there were times when I would like, I would be on other shows and I would be like, listen, I've worked on shows where the women will get plastered, or like even if like they were out all night and so they wake up in the morning and they just don't even fix their hair and they walk downstairs for breakfast and put a mic on and eat breakfast and they look like they put their hand in a light socket. Do you know what I mean? And like that, but that's what they would do if they were on vacation. So that's what it looks like.
And their head is pressed against the glass patio. Like,
yeah. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Like that, like there's a, like, where do you see that ever anywhere else?
Definitely not on The Bachelor. On The Bachelor, you have to work until 5 o'clock in the morning and chug champagne and then wake up at 8 a.m. because you're like, if I don't do my hair, he'll never pick me.
Well, not even that, but like we're not even talking about the same people, because it's like they would never be on The Bachelor because they're like old hags, like as far as society is concerned. That's, I think, the other thing is like these women are like, there is a pressure for them to look good because they're on Housewives and they're going to, you know, they need to look good. But it's like a thing where you're actually seeing women in a dress that 10 years ago would be inappropriate for them to wear because of their age, looking great, looking amazing, like being able to like look really pretty and still be older, and that not being like, look at this desperate cougar. Do you know what I mean? Like, remember that? Remember, like, do we even use that term anymore? Remember when that was a term? Like, they were women that were in charge of their sexuality and wanted to be with someone that was like not have erectile dysfunction because they're the same age, like was branded as like us, like basically Satan.
Like a predator. Basically.
Like, think about that. Yes, a predator. That's a great, yes, think about that for a second if we want to really get into it.
I do think that Luann and Sonia should have their own Bachelor or Ultimatum or Perfect Match type of. I think Bravoverse should do a Perfect Match situation with Luann and Sonia at the head, and they call it like the Cougar Den.
Well, back in the day, whenever Carol was like with Adam and like her and Luann got in that big fight, Luann wanted to like do a show she was like, I'm going to do a show and I want it to be like, I'm going to match like women up, like women my age up with like younger men. And it's going to be called like the Cougar matchup. I don't remember what the title is. But like she basically wanted to be like, oh, since I matched up Carol and Adam, I want to like match up like women our age and then like 25-year-olds, which again, she could just do today. I think it'd be great. And and not for nothing, I like watching women in their 50s going on a fucking date.
I do too. Because
like, I think it's so interesting. It's like, I want to go back in time and slap my 24-year-old self for everything I said on a first date. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't think that, then you have there's something wrong with you, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Or
like,
not just getting up and leaving because the first date is so bad. Like, calling it after 15 minutes to be like, okay, I gotta go.
Yeah, like, I actually have to leave by. Like, I just got so busy. Like, I have to go. But like, these women, like, imagine being 50 years old and going on a first date and knowing exactly what you wanted and like and just like being able to take someone for who they are.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it is so maybe that's why I'm really bad at dating, because I've only watched the Housewives do it and be like, that's success. You just go
Yeah.
and you're like, this is who I am, baby.
Which PS it isn't, because they never end up like staying with anyone.
I know. I'm like, yeah, you just get like your cocktail and you're like, what do you mean you don't like it that I have crystals? This is who I am, baby. Yeah. And then you like are like, I can't believe you didn't call me back.
And there's multiple things, like, to get into kind of like the wish fulfillment of it all. Sorry, am I like steering this? And you're like, no, yeah. And to get into like the wish fulfillment of it all, I mean, the other thing that we want to, I mean, what else do we want to say about like their age before we go into like keeping up with the Joneses?
I think we're pretty good on the age, so let's go ahead and move into the wish fulfillment, because there is a big capitalism part of that, because it just sinks into everything. So we do watch the Housewives get to go on all of these trips and buy and have someone go into their closet and try on their very nice pantsuit, and then people not go, "What? That was a huge deal. Don't do that." Like, yeah. Do not just put on other people's clothes. Just, I don't.
The wish fulfillment of it is also interesting, because there's like,
I think that's something that's really interesting about the wish fulfillment is that, and again, I am very rational when it comes to things like capitalism and the economy and the idea that money is real. But what people don't understand is that rich people also have this idea of having to keep up with the Joneses, and it's not that the Housewives are competing with us to make us believe that they're well off and fancy. They know that we think that they're well off and fancy. They're trying to do it with one another. And I think that should be an equalizer, because it's like, at the end of the day, everyone does that, no matter where you are on the economical line. Like, at some point you are like, well, if they're getting that level of seats at Stevie Nicks, I'm going 3 rows ahead because I can, like, and taking photos to stunt.
There's a part of it where and that's the thing that's really funny too, is I think that like there's a very big difference between people like housewives that have had money for a long time and housewives that have money now because they're on the Housewives. Mm-hmm. And like, and just reality stars, just people in general, people with like old money and new money is real. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
And being able to see some people that are like really like, oh, I grew up with this money. It's very like different from the people that are then like label. Mm-hmm. And it's very, I remember what I wanted to say. And it's very interesting, because so many people that like a lot of the again, the older women that I've worked with on reality television, you'll be going through their closets and they're like, oh, here's this Poochie dress that I have from like you weren't even alive yet when I bought this. And I was like, and I'm like, this is stunning and beautiful. And they're like, yeah, it's just blah, whatever. You know what I mean? And you're like, that you can't buy. Do you know what I mean? To be like, I've owned this my whole life and it's like vintage and real, and like you've never, you know what I mean? Like you've never, like you couldn't buy this today if you tried. Like, and that kind of shit is like the real flex, which I love.
And I'm sitting there being like, that should be in a museum.
Yes.
Donate it to something.
Yes. And the one thing that I will say is that like a few things that I have learned from the Housewives. One time when Dorinda, it was one of the gallery shoots, which is like basically whenever they turn around in their name and you see their name, like the like quintessence, the thing that's like the most spoofed of all the Housewives, whatever. It's like, it'd be like Natalie, and it'd be like you spinning around and like looking into the camera and smiling. We were doing those shoots and it's like a green screen and there's like a lot of like hair and makeup and the dresses need to be approved. And it's like, it is like more intense of just like an interview where we're just like, wear whatever. And like, we like this. Okay. And so we were doing that and someone walked in and I think it was Dorinda, if I remember this correctly. Dorinda walked in and they went and like someone was like, oh my God, Dorinda, this is so beautiful. Like, look at this jewelry. And she's like, oh yeah, this is like my old, like I actually brought out like my real diamonds, like, ha. And then they were like, oh my God, like I would kill to like have this. And Dorinda looked at the person and was like, we all go to bed naked. Like, you know what I mean? And she just like, it like kind of like, yes, it's all great. And yes, this is beautiful. But like a thing where it's like, this doesn't make me any better than you because I can afford diamonds or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, Like it all comes out or something. It was, I think it was, we all go to bed naked. You know what I mean? It was like, yes, it's all closed, and yes, I have the money to do this, but like, I'm still a person just like you are a person. And like,
well, and oh my gosh, I do love Dorinda. Like, that makes me all warm and gooey and being like, see, I knew Dorinda had a good soul. But it also does make me think of a recent New York scene because I've watched, because there are people who really do care about the status of it all.
yes.
And that never loves to come out more than when they have to pick rooms in the Airbnb for the trip.
And P.S., if you're worried about status and that kind of thing, it's because you don't have any.
Mm-hmm. So all I could think about is that Carol and Bethany came up with we'll draft. We're all going to pick a number, and number one gets to pick first, number two and it's the ultimate equalizer. We're taking out all of the bullshit. And they all agree to do it. And then the moment that someone gets number 7, they're like, fuck this. I'm going to get the worst room with no view, with no staff in sight, and I need my sleepy time tea.
And guess what? Like, the rooms, like, we work them to the bone. Like, that's the thing that's so funny is, like, the room, like, they're never in their rooms.
I know.
And, like, but, like, it's, I mean, it is the thing where it's like, how are we going to pick the rooms? Like, that's always a question. Like, we always discuss it. Like, how do you pick the rooms? Like, it's always, like, a thing that, like, because it needs to be clean. Like, it can't be, like, we assigned them rooms. Like, do you know what I mean? It needs to be.
And it could be 6 hours of the trip, because some of them will argue that point to ad nauseum. And it happens every year on Summer House, too. They rent the same goddamn house, and they're like, I want the top floor room now.
Well, in their show, I feel like they live in those rooms so much more. And they're there for, like, weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, like, way more. But, like, there is this thing of keeping up with the Joneses, but then there is something where, like, I don't know. And I've been doing this in my own personal wardrobe, is, like, not chasing the trends anymore. Like, knowing I've always had, like, whether it has changed or not, I feel that I've always had a very strong conviction when it comes to my own personal style. Like, when I like something, I like it, and when I don't, I don't. And I know what I like, and I know what I don't like. But really trying to go from being like, I need to have, like, a new thing, or I need to be able to, like, taking tags off something, or I need to be like, everyone's wearing this, so I need to be wearing this. I've, like, so rejected that and, like, divorced it completely, and have just started wearing what I want to wear.
I love that.
And that, like, will always keep you from having to, like, be keeping up with the Joneses, because, like, one time I was working in an office in Brooklyn, and I was working on shows, and one of the editors was like, I was, like, getting my lunch out of, like, the fridge or something. I don't know. I was, like, in the kitchen for some reason. Back when we all worked in offices. And, like literally that, like, far off away fever dream that we don't do anymore. I remember an editor coming up to me, and she was like, I just need to tell you that you have, like, such a unique personal style, and, like, I've never seen anyone dress the way that you do, and, like, it's just very interesting, and, like, I really like it. And I was like, it's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. You know what I mean? I was, like, floored, and was like, I don't need to, like, work anymore today. Like, bye, I'm leaving. Like, this is, like, amazing. Like, I'm so much better than every single person here because this person just said this to me. But, like, that being said, it was, like, one of those things where I was like, oh, this is, like, that feels great, versus being like, I spent $2,000 on this outfit. Like, can't you tell by the fact that it says Burberry all over it? Like, or that there's Fendi F's upside down and forward, like, everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, because if I could live every day in a costume that reflected what I was doing that day, I love themed outfits. So this being the summer of, like, Eras Tour outfits and the Barbie movie outfits, and us getting to just, like, dress up in real time, I'm like, I've been doing this for years, and people have been making fun of me. And now women are stopping me on the streets to be like, you look just like Barbie. You look fucking perfect. And I'm like, I'm going to put it in my calendar, and Google's going to remind me once a year that I'm better than everybody.
Well, wait, do you know that this is really embarrassing, and you can leave it in, but that I have a folder on my computer that is screenshots of really nice texts that people have sent me, or, like, emails, and then I just keep it, and sometimes when I need to pick me up, I look at them.
We all do that.
I was just at the Beyonce concert.
Yes, you were.
And I was thinking about this while I was getting ready. And I was thinking, like, whereas everyone is like buying new things and I need to have an outfit, I need to have this. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I am not buying a shirt. I'm not buying something just to wear to a concert that I'm probably never going to wear ever again. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I was like, I have my own clothing. I wore everything I already had in my closet. I like wore what I wore. And there's something about it that was so liberating of not being, and same thing for the Barbie movie. We went to the Barbie movie for my friend's like bachelorette party, basically. She got eloped. So it was like a wife-lorette, which I don't think is a real thing, but like she got it. But like it was basically like her bachelorette party. We went to see the Barbie movie and everyone dressed in pink but me because I don't have anything that's pink. And I was like, I'm not buying a pink t-shirt just to go to this movie. I'm going to wear the clothes. I wore a Spice Girls t-shirt. If that's not acceptable, I don't know what is. But like I wore everything I already owned and was like, this is my version of what I'm wearing to Barbie. So like everyone can fuck off. And I'm not going to like wear the new, like I'm not buying something from Shein or like fucking like whatever the fuck else, ASOS or like all the, you know what I mean? I'm not buying like a piece of clothing that will light on fire in 0.5 seconds if I look at a flame to like wear one time to the Barbie movie and then throw in the garbage. I'm not doing it.
And I was the first person to tell you, but you're cosplaying as Ken. You already look like a Ken in the movie.
Yes.
You will be so surprised.
Yes.
But you did dress up for the movie. You just didn't think you were. And I do think that our fascination with fast fashion and looking good for things that I bought into this summer, even though I knew if I actually took the 15 minutes to look through my closet, I'd have the perfect Taylor Swift. Yeah, I'd have the perfect Taylor Swift outfit. But I want a reason to feel.
When celebrities screw up, are you the person who immediately texts your friends about it?
Does your family routinely rewind TV shows because you scream irrationally loud at missing plot points?
Are you genuinely mad at Ariana Grande for dating married men, but not mad enough to change your plan to take off from work the day Wicked comes out?
If you answered yes to any of these questions,
or are even friends with someone who would,
then Fixing Famous People is literally the podcast for you.
I'm Krista Rosa.
And I'm Dominic Pupa.
Fixing Famous People is the podcast where we, two veteran reality television producers, unpack the biggest celebrity scandals dominating entertainment news
and our lives. Every week we attempt to fix a new celebrity client by analyzing their missteps and each pitching a solution to return them to glory.
With a slew of hilarious guests and hotter than hot takes, Fixing Famous People is here to transform the reputations of the stars who are clearly not just like us.
You can find Fixing Famous People literally anywhere you find podcasts.
And you know the other thing is I know we're like jumping all over the place, but like even like taking care of your, and this is like not about Housewives anymore at all, but like taking care of your clothing and buying something that, and I know that this is like what every person says and everyone's like shut up, but like buying a t-shirt doesn't feel like sandpaper and being like, oh, this was like $15 more, but it actually is made out of cotton and not like chemicals, and like it feels like this is like from, I think, Richer and Poorer or whatever that brand is. Mm-hmm. And like, this is a t-shirt that I'm feeling, and it's not bought it for me for my birthday, but it's like, this is like a quality made garment that I will have for like a long time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so it's like actually not having to keep up with the Joneses is also like not having to like redo your wardrobe every 2 years. Do you know what I mean? And like just having things that are set, because there's nothing chicer than being like, someone being like, oh my God, like what, this is beautiful. Where did you get this? And then being like, oh, this is from like 15 years ago.
I can't
like,
even remember.
That to me is like beautiful. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I bought this on sale. It was the last one and it's from like 4 years ago and I've like just kept it in really good condition. That's like porn to me.
And I do believe that, and again, if I had just spent 15 minutes because you know what I won't buy new outfits for anymore is weddings. Because I'm like, I hate being at a wedding. Why would I buy a new?
I refuse. You're gonna die. I think you know this. I wore Richard, as in Richard Medley's, like suit to a wedding in Italy that Dorinda gave me.
Because she is a good soul.
Because she was like, I'm gonna get rid of all these clothes. Do you want them? And I literally looked at one thing and it was like an extremely expensive, like, cashmere blazer, and I was like, 100% I do. But like, it's not like I wore a suit that like is from 20 years ago, and I didn't care because I was like, I'd rather just do this than have to go to Zara again and buy a suit for $300.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to fit into soon.
The thing about weddings is I usually have to travel for weddings because I don't live anywhere near my family. And so I'm like, okay, you have to pack, I guess, 5 dresses because I'm a lady with hormones. Who knows what my body will look like the day of the wedding?
Also,
I can't afford to just buy 5 ready-made wedding attire dresses every time one of my cousins finds someone to marry them. And I'm like, okay, but I need 6 because...
And guess what? There's nothing wrong with like restyling something and it being like, you know what I mean? Wear like a shawl over it. Have a little like something, like have like not a cardigan, but like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Even if it's like a sheer little, like buy a little sheer, you know what I'm saying? Like a little cardigan, not a shawl. Who wears like a shawl anymore? But like a little cardigan or something that's like over, like as if you would wear like with a maxi dress, like a jean jacket over a maxi dress, like whatever that is in formal wear, like wear something like that. So a cape. Okay. Yes, though, but like for real.
Yeah.
Like wear something over, use something to make a variation on this dress that you've worn to 7 weddings. Like I have this burgundy suit from Zara that should not still be in good condition, but is because I've worn it. Hassan. We've worn it out. We've worn it to like minimum 10 different events. And like, it was only like a $200 some Zara suit. It wasn't any, but randomly the quality was really good. You know, when sometimes they're like, let's like make this for real and make it like nice. And you're like, wow, really? I've worn that suit so many times and I've just like changed the way that I've styled it, changed the shirt underneath, worn the suit jacket with different pants. Like, and it's really that thing of like, I've taken that, it's like the sisterhood of the traveling pants. Like, I've like taken that suit and worn it to like 17 different things. And I've saved, if I would have had to spend, let's just say conservatively $250, what's that times 9? Yeah. You know what I mean? I've saved like thousands of dollars. No, but the thing of like the keeping, like the wish fulfillment of it all is great, but it's that thing where, I'm like all over the place. So many things to say. Sorry. The wish fulfillment of it is very interesting too, though, because there is a world where you do get to see that, like, oh, even if I had like $40 million, like I would still have the exact same problems that I have right now.
Well, Alarinthia and I talked about that for the writer's strike episode, where it's like people just assume that because I am TV adjacent, I'm like living some very fancy,
paid to the hill. Yeah.
Paid to the hill. All of my student debt is gone. I'm eating caviar every night. And I don't know if it's just like my little spicy neurodivergent in my brain, but when I was watching Housewives or when I was watching The Bachelor, my head did tell me, you're not the girl that gets to be on The Bachelor, because I was overweight and I was loud. And I was funny. They're so mean to funny women in that franchise.
Oh.
They're so mean to funny women.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I did realistically know, like, you are not the girl who gets to be the Bachelorette. No one wants to. I still say that I should be the first fat Bachelorette. 100%.
You would be. I would desperately want you to be it, but however, I know that like
they'd be so mean to me.
No one, but like no one else would. Like the internet would. You would have to disappear afterwards.
I would have to, which I think is why Netflix is my bread and butter, because what Netflix does, like the Housewives, is it's an ensemble and not just one person on a journey. And I think that's the only way shit like that works.
Yeah.
But when I was watching The Housewives, I never then looked around my dorm room or my 1-bedroom apartment or the home I grew up with in my family and went, what a fucking dump. And I feel like we're very much in this age of television where everyone wants to scream if the TV has made them feel bad. And I'm like, well, sometimes movies are supposed to make you feel bad. Like, sometimes that is what we're doing.
And, like, it's not their fucking fault that you don't have a good job. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, what did they do to you? Like, you know what I mean? And yes, that's not, like, it's maybe society's fault, but it's, like, not this person's fault that you don't have. I don't know.
Also, turn it off.
Yeah. And I think, too, it's, like, even, like, there's the only show that I feel like I've watched where it's, like, not relatable at all anymore is like the Kardashians now, which is why
God.
I feel like I like it again in small doses, as like them being so rich and powerful that it's like that now it's like fantasy, which I love. But like, not for nothing, it's like, yeah, you could have a really nice apartment, but then again, you're always worried about like your taxes and the this and the shares and the, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not, we think it gets, if I just had this much more money, it would be easier, but it's like, there's a threshold where it then just gets so much harder because you have so much more to manage.
Yeah. And I think this is why I want you to come on Still Comfy for Drop Dead Gorgeous, because I'm terrified of doing that movie. And it's my favorite movie. Because
yeah, I know every single word to the entire movie.
Me too. And I can do it in Kirstie Alley's accent. But may she rest in wherever the Scientologists go when they're gone.
Yeah, I'm clear. Like, may she rest in Xenu. Rest in Xenu.
But I've said this out loud. I'm like, we can't watch my favorite movie anymore. I go, there can no longer be public screenings of Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oh, no, it's terrible.
It's terrible, but it's also such good satire and so offensive that people won't get it.
Yes.
And I think we're, like with the Housewives and reality TV, we have, and I am the biggest, like, at fault of this, of having parasocial relationships with people who are in the media that I admire. I would push someone in front of the bus if they were mean to one of the Critical Role women and I caught them at a con. I'd be like, oh, you died today, and just shove them in front of a bus because that's my job as their friend that they don't know about.
And it's funny you bring that up, because it's like, that is another part of it, is like, we've gone so far where it's like we want to be them so badly that we think that they're our best friend, and it's like, that's also not what this is.
Yeah. And I just admitted on my own show that I call the Housewives my aunties. I'm like, look at my aunties having a great time on vacation.
Yeah.
Which they would have invited me. But I think when we've taken our parasocial relationships with like influencers and people who are making like in real time content and podcasters, and also have been like, so that means I should also be mad at the Disney princess who pissed me off. And I'm like, no, Cinderella's not your friend. No.
And there's so many, I don't know. It's just like, so we could sit here and like unpack everything and like be mad about everything and do this and do that and like blame everyone else for every reason that we're like not okay, or we could just like do better and like try to get, I don't know, I know that's like such an oversimplification for everything, but it's like, it's not any TV show's fault that you like don't feel good about yourself.
Yeah. I had a fucking meltdown when Taylor Swift was dating Maddie Healy right before I was going to her fucking concert, because I had planned a lot of marketing for this show surrounding Taylor Swift, and I was like, why would you do me like this?
Yes, and it's like, that's not her problem.
It's not her problem. It's not her problem that I was like, I'm going to use Instagram photos of me at her concert to sell my own shit. It's probably me taking advantage of her. But then at the end of the day, I was like, well, I guess if Taylor Swift can get had by a ugly man who has bad opinions and an even worse attitude, then I won't feel as bad about it the next time I date a man that I don't know is secretly homophobic.
What did I just say? They have the same problems as us.
They have the same problem as us. Have I been at a drag brunch in my youth where all of a sudden I'm having a really good time and a straight man has stormed off in a fury because he didn't know how gay drag was going to get? Yes. And then you have to go, wait, is my friend homophobic? Who brought the homophobe? Oh, that was me.
I mean, Taylor Swift has never she's never not been gotten by a man. We've heard it time and time again, not to like invoke hate against the Queen Swiftie, but like, you know, she can't get it right. Why should any of us get it right?
Right. Also, that's why I like her. That's why I cry every time I read one of her songs, because I'm like, I have also gone through this, and I am also a foolish one.
You really do relate to it. It really is relatable. And so that's the other thing, is that like these women don't stop.
No.
Like they don't stop moving. Like so much so that like I was filming with someone recently and was like, I need you to not in the middle of a sentence walk into another room to go look for like God knows what in what drawer where. I was like, I need you to stand here and look me in the eye, and I need to have a conversation with you for 45 seconds.
And I promise it'll be okay.
And the person was like, I can't do that. Like, and then walked out of the room and was like looking for like God knows what. Like they don't quit. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing is that it's like you could be just like them. And now I sound like Kim Kardashian when she's like, get off your fucking ass and work. But like the reason they are who they are is because they never fucking stop.
Yeah.
And they're relentless and they know it.
And I told you that my favorite part of the Ultimate Girls Trip promo was when Vicky started screaming that she could be working and everyone was wasting her time. And I was like, Vicky, you're on vacation.
Yeah.
I could be working. I could be at work. I love to work. I love to work. I could have been working. And I was like, you've been saying that for 30 years. Retire.
Yeah, she'll never retire.
No, I know. Because what would she drop dead?
What would she? But that's the thing. And not for nothing. Like, props to a woman that is bonded to her job.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't seen as like a mom, just like a mom and a housewife. But it's like, when you think of Vicky, what do you think of other than whooping it up? You think of Kodo Insurance.
Yeah. You think of her screaming at people. Why would you waste my time? I could have sent an email.
Yeah. Like I think of when I think of her other than whooping it up and like the actual things that I've like actually really like I filmed with her. So I know I have spoken to her. But like when I think of her as like a TV person, I think of her whooping it up at Andale's. And then I think of her at Kodo Insurance, like typing on that keyboard like all those years ago.
Yeah. And when I think of Luann, I think of just be cool. Don't be not cool.
I was in the room for that. You know that.
Oh my, no, I don't.
I was there for that.
And I think Luann was so secure in herself and the brand that she had built that she left a fucking title behind. She was a countess and she's like, fuck your ass, I'll divorce you. Yeah. Is Kate Middleton ever going to do that?
Oh, no. Hell no.
Is Meghan Markle ever going to do that? No.
Oh, no, allegedly it's like...
I know, they're on the rocks.
I mean, we're in the time machine, right? Like, this is like gotta come out in a million years.
Yes,
so
it's gonna come out. Yeah, they're on the rocks. Whatever. But...
I'm trying to think of what else, like, is there anything else I want to say about this kind of stuff?
Honestly, I'm really mad that you and I don't just have friendly phone calls once a week.
Yeah.
We're both so busy, but like, what if we just were like, do you have 15 minutes? Yeah.
And there's like, and I don't want to be like the person that comes on and is like defending reality TV and that it's like amazing and nothing is bad about it. Like there's many people that are like, that have been very affected by it. And there are shows, The Bachelor, that have not needing to, but have wielded power against people and really done harm.
Yeah.
I agree that exists.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want people to think that I'm like defending you know what I mean? In every industry, there's bad things and good things. I think that we need to remember that this is a television show.
Yeah. I think, well, number one, like, you can go I always say it like this. I was like, every action that you put out into the world has the opportunity to do harm. It just depends on who catches it and how they're affected by it. So to expect people to be in the limelight, or people to be public figures, or people to be musicians, Oscar winners, whatever, to never do a lick of harm, why would you want that expectation on you? I was a teacher. I did harm, and I was a good teacher.
Yeah.
And I watched bad teachers do a lot of harm, and then went to the proper authorities to be like, hi, here's a video on my phone. I just thought maybe you'd like to look at it, and then tell me to mind my business. Like,
it's I think the other thing too is like it's meant for entertainment, but also too, like, a lot of the women go through things and these women will write to them. Like so many housewives have been like, oh, I talked about my, infertility. Like, I don't want to say the word journey. I can't do a journey about anything anymore. I hate it. My struggles with infertility, and they were flooded with DMs of like, thank you for talking about this. This is exactly what I went through, blah, blah, blah. Like, there is a world in which like we do relate to these people, and there is good that comes from shedding light on issues that women have, that like I as a man have no idea what it's like to go through infertility struggles. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's like I then have learned something because I'm listening to the story that a woman is telling me. How many men can say that they ever do that ever?
How often do infertility experiences going through adoption or fertility in general, not wanting children, pregnancy, breast cancer has also been something that's happened in the zeitgeist of the housewives. We get very sweet, like, storylines or very gut-wrenching storylines of those.
Yes.
We very rarely get representation of, no, this is what the day-to-day looks like for that. And I think that that's important, too, because it's another way that female stories get told.
It's also, this is the other thing, too, is that I feel that, like, anymore we want, like, everything now. Like, we want it to be like, no, we need to see exactly the fight of the two people that are fighting. Whereas, like, I was watching The Kardashians for a different podcast that I was recapping it, and there was a scene where Kim Kardashian goes into her storage unit where she has all of these clothes and, like, every Yeezy thing that's ever been made. Basically, like, one of everything that they've ever made. And, like, she's going through all of these clothes, and although, like, nothing really happens in the scene, I thought it was, like, one of the best scenes of anything I've ever seen because it was so real and, like, raw, where she was, like, talking about, like, I know that I shouldn't, like, I know that now, like, all these shoes are, like, contraband, basically, because my husband's a Nazi. And, like, as much as I need to, I'm heartbroken that my husband is mentally unwell, and, like, so much so that he's become a public enemy and is, like, causing people harm with his words. That's layer one. Layer two is, like, this is also the father of all of my children. So, like, what do I do? Say your father is out of his mind and, like, a crazy person. And, like, what do you do? And, like, you know what I mean? And is, like, is a Nazi. Like, what do you, that's layer two. So, like, there's a world in which this is still my parents' father that I want them to have a relationship with him, even if he's not well. Like, they still need to know who their father is. 3, I, like, hold on to clothing as memories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like all of my memories are, like, different business things that I did or, like, clothing items. But just her going through this storage unit again, nothing happens, like, mundane every day. Like, I have so much stuff. What do I do with it? But the emotional stakes of the scene were out of control. So much so that I was like, this is so, I've been thinking about it since.
Well, because if you've gone through some sort of layer of trauma, like him is currently going through with Kanye, you know how re-traumatizing that is for you. To sit there and be like, well, I guess I'm going to touch all of the shit that he ever gave me, designed for me, all of it, because I've avoided it for so long. And then, I know I've been talking about Taylor Swift all summer, but when I went feral during All Too Well while I was watching her live and sang to it and then yelled in a bunch of people's videos who did not know that they were sitting next to me, fuck Jake Gyllenhaal, just because the spirit moved me. Like, I thought about it and I told this to my friend Elizabeth. I go, All Too Well isn't about the breakup. I go, it's about all of the gaslighting that happened in their relationship. I go, that's why she keeps saying, I was there. I remember it all too well. I go, because he's probably told her a lot of bullshit that he did or said did not happen. And she was like, oh. And I was like, and I know that because no one's been gaslit more than me except for maybe Taylor Swift. And so I cry almost every time I hear that song. So to sit in a storage unit with all of my gaslighter stuff and be like, what am I allowed to keep? What should be in my home?
As she's going through the racks, she just, like, pulls out, like, this gray hoodie, and it's the gray hoodie that he's wearing in the album cover of College Dropout, and it says College Dropout. And you're just like, it's just like, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're just like, holy fuck. Like, it's, I don't know. But, like, being able to watch that person go through that on TV has made me like be more intellectual as a human being. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've thought about like, oh, I wonder what that would feel. Because like when will any of us ever be able to say that like, oh yeah, I know what it's like whenever like my very famous husband is mentally unwell and turns into a Nazi. Like none of us will be able to say that. That like everyone, that is a household name. You know what I mean? By his first name only. Do you know what I mean? Like none of us will ever be able to say that. So it's like there is a world in which it is completely unrelatable, but and yet it's like this is still a woman's experience, and it's like absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I think when you're looking at physical things like a sweatshirt that says college dropout that we all know. So it's like that's part of Kanye's history. That's part of Kim's history. That's part of my fucking history.
Part of our history, yes. Yeah. It's part of American history, truly.
Yeah. There are still songs that I have a really hard time skipping when they come up on my Spotify DJ. And I'm like, please don't make me skip it. Let me pretend I'm too far from my phone. Like, Chris, I think we should actually move into the lasting moments of the podcast so I don't keep you here, because I know eventually you will have other things to do.
I also could talk about, like, this is like everything I ever want to talk about. So if we don't stop, like, we'll just stay on this. You'll make a 3-hour podcast and then you'll be like, why the fuck did I do this?
Because I love spending time with you, even if it's over a video. On to all the men I've tolerated before. We talk about a lot of heavy things like keeping up with the Joneses and women's place in TV and ageism. So we like to end on a positive note by offering the audience like a little life experience lesson that you may have gotten from our conversation, or watching Kim Kardashian in her storage unit, or producing The Housewives. And then we like to take that lesson and then throw out some positivity even further with a manifestation and a hope that we wish for something to happen at some point. We just like to speak aloud our manifestations. So, what have you learned by producing The Housewives and being involved in TV that focuses on older women?
You know what's something? Okay, this is kind of in the vein of like keeping up with the Joneses / Kardashians. Is that yes, does everyone want to have a huge house, and do they want to have like do they want to have Bluestone Manor? Do they want to have a Hamptons house like Ramona? Do they want to have this? They want to have something where they can like have parties and like, be the hostess with the mostess. You can live in an efficiency apartment and you can still throw a great party. I think that that's something that, and not for nothing, a lot of them have said that to me. They're like, we used to throw parties when I had 3 roommates and we were like 25, and it really is something where like, even if you are like, I can never have anyone over because like I don't have a nice apartment, like, I don't live like the Housewives, so like why would anyone ever need to come here? Some of the most fun I've ever had has been like going to a friend's house that was like cooking a dinner. It didn't need to be anything fancy. It didn't need to be anything, but the special touches, and like, you don't need to have Baccarat crystal glasses. Like, you know what I mean? You don't need to have like Crate and Barrel isn't that expensive. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You can get stemware from Crate and Barrel that's like very cute and chic and still it's $4 a glass. You know what I mean? I think that's something that is very like, you don't need to spend a lot of money, and you don't also need to go to Home Goods and buy like ugly ass shit. I think so much of the stuff at Home Goods is, I know that like everyone's turning their podcast off now, but like so much of the stuff at Home Goods is like, think so ugly and so like kitschy and like not in a cute way.
Why are you insulting my glass pumpkin
collection? But like there's so much stuff where it's like there's all these patterns on everything, and I'm like, okay, This doesn't all need to be so loud. Like, it doesn't need to be so crazy. You can have chic, nice things from Macy's where you have your Macy's credit card and you end up spending $10 on like a blanket that's on like super sale. You know what I mean? Like, you can hunt for bargains, and like, just because you don't have an Instagram house that's like all white with like shag rugs and like ugly ass shit, like that they all think is so cute. Like, you can have your own personal style and make that apparent. And like, even with clothing, like, you don't need to spend $1 bajillion, but you can buy one thing that was maybe $50 that is out of your price range, that's made well, that you wear all the time, and you can just switch up the way that you wear it and it looks great. Like, you don't need to spend all this money and keep up with the Joneses in that way whenever you are thoughtful about the way that you do things. Like, your bedding doesn't need to be $8 million, but it can be cute. And not just like whatever the fuck's at Home Goods that's ugly as shit. Do you know what I mean? And there's like 9,000 patterns together that they're like trying to make you buy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you can still enjoy the thing, like the cutest Barbie bracelets that I made for me and my sister. The beads are from the dollar store. I just impulsively, and now I'm pissed because I don't think that they have them anymore. It's like I would have bought all of them.
And you don't need to. I think that was something. It was definitely something that they've told me a million times. Is like the women. It was like it's all about the presentation of what you have. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter if your house is the nicest house or not nicest house. If it's cute and it's cozy and it's warm and it looks inviting, and that doesn't need to be an Hermes blanket. It doesn't. It can be, again, a home goods blanket that you take really good care of. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It can be like a thrifted coffee table that's old wood and like looks really cute, and you just make sure you clean it once a week. Yeah. Like you don't need to have expensive things to have like beautiful things.
Yeah, I think my lesson whenever we talk about capitalism and money and the power it wields in the show is I like to just remind people that like now that money truly isn't all that physical anymore. In my head, it's made up. So,
well, it is. I mean, I'll come back any day you want to just talk about like the fact that like what are stocks other than just like make believe nothing? Like it's just nothing.
It's just monopoly.
Yeah. Like it's insane that our entire economy hinges on just like a made up system that has nothing to do with anything.
Right. They tell us that there's no money and I'm like, just put more zeros into the internet. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'll come back in a second. And I just droned on about like 9 million things, but it really is that thing of like you also can achieve what you want to achieve and make things look cute or look nice, and they don't have to, and you don't have to actually work that hard. You just have to like know where you're getting your stuff.
Yeah. What do you hope in the future for either the housewives, yourself, misogyny, the collective in general?
I hope that, well, for myself, I hope that you guys come and listen to my podcast called Fixing Famous People. How dare I do that? But
I was going to let you plug.
Now, Natalie has been a guest. I know, but it's just like, what do I hope for myself? But like, that is what I hope. It's very funny. We have a lot of fun. Natalie's been a guest. She'll be a guest again. And please come listen. It's really great. I hope for women, I think that a lot of like women's issues are just that. It's labeled as women's issues. And so men, for the most part, don't ever feel that they need to be involved with them. And that's in itself like a disservice. And so there is such a thing where like I like that fact that even though I don't watch it a lot myself, I like the fact that Summer House does exist because it's like a Bravo show that then is like a pipeline that and Below Deck as well, where like everyone's boyfriend is watching that with their girlfriends, and then they eventually get sucked into Housewives, and then men are listening about women with fibroids or like women that like wanted to be blank, blank, and blank, but then they couldn't. You know what I mean? Like that does exist because of shows like that. Mm-hmm. And I hope that we can start to talk about women's issues and it not be labeled as like something for women that men don't need to be involved in.
Yeah. And wouldn't that be great for everything? For LGBTQ issues,
yes,
for
correct.
people of color issues,
trans issues.
What if they were all just issues?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
First off, my first manifestation is that Chris and I work together on hundreds of projects.
Yes, please.
When you ran into someone that you admire at the Beyonce concert and you were like, I can't believe this happened to me. And I was like, if Chris and I got into the same room with our luck and our talent and our charm, we would run countries.
Yeah.
We would take
also,
over.
I talk to you every day.
Every day.
Isn't like, no, but you know what I mean? It's like that. I met someone. I was like, oh my God, I've been like listening to you for years. This is so great. You and I talk every single day. So it's like, well, I don't know what you're like. If only we could be in a room. We'll be in a room together very soon. Don't you worry about that.
I know.
And actually, when this airs, we probably already will have done that.
Maybe. Yeah. And I think my second manifestation that deals with the episode is I just hope that the world gets kinder to older women in general. Like,
period.
Every day is Margot Robbie looking at a really old lady on a bench and going, you're beautiful. And that lady going, fucking duh.
Yeah.
That's all because I'm getting older. And while I welcome my shrew and hag years every day, every day, I'm getting closer and closer to when people will believe that I am in fact a crone on the inside. I cannot wait. I will take myself to the woods after you and I work on 200 projects. And then you'll be like,
yeah,
where's your great partner, Natalie? In the woods. That's where
there. It's yeah, I am starting to really be like, all right, I need to like be on a diet and like eat healthier, and I need to exercise more, and I need to like notice how shiny my skin is because I've been throwing every product I've ever owned like on it.
No, I exfoliated today and then put the heaviest lotion I know I own on every surface of my body.
Like as if I was like being lubed up to like get like dunked into a cannon. Do you know what I mean? Like
I was like, Chris is gonna log on and I'm gonna look insane.
Like that you're melting. Like
and I'm just gonna slide off of my chair.
Like slide off. No, meanwhile, same. Like we're like both just sliding right off our chairs. Yeah.
But yeah, I just hope that the world gets a little bit easier on older women because, my God, they're not only our future, they're our present. They know a lot of shit.
And it's like when, I mean, I know we're like done, but like, it's like, when have you watched ever in your life, like a woman over 50, like have sexual desires on a scripted television show ever?
Exactly. Or, a woman in her 50s or her 40s just be like, you know, now that I think about it and I take God and my parents out of the equation, maybe I'm queer. Like, and that's like, it's just so refreshing to know that whatever year of your life that you're in, you're allowed to make that year what you want it to be and what your identity is going to be that year. And the Housewives do a lot of revamping of themselves, and that's refreshing.
Yeah. For better or for worse.
For better or for worse. If it's not for better, it's at least for entertaining.
For entertainment, yes. Yeah. Correct. Wow. What a way to end it.
What a way to end it. Chris, make sure to tell everyone again how fun I was on what your favorite episode of Fixing Famous People is and why it's my episode.
Natalie was on the Chris Pratt episode. It was critically received, critically acclaimed whenever it came down. People were loving that we were doing that episode. The podcast is called Fixing Famous People. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. You guys can find me at the Krista Rosa.
And tolerators, you know the deal. First off, we're going to thank Chris for being here. I almost forgot to do that because I'm like, we're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for all of the future things that we'll do together. And tolerators, follow us at Men I've Tolerated Pod. Make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast and then show it to a friend. And remember, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including a society who wants to throw you out in the bin as soon as your age crouches towards 50. Smiles are for joy.